So now that we've finished the actual worksheet in terms of true and false, often managers want to get some visual depictions as to what the results might be. As human beings, when we look at a big blob of data, such as what we have right here, it's often quite good to give us visual representations of the trends that the data actually presents. So to show you how that might work, I'm going to do some conditional formatting that's going to end up like this at the end of the day, like this, in which we have people with a net worth of less than 500,000 being shown as dark gray or light gray like this, and people with high net worth, like this one here with a $500 million person with a higher net worth shown in a different way. But before we get to that, I want to show you some of the conditional formatting you can do on an individual suite of data, such as here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you up and down arrows to indicate whether a person is doing well or doing bad in terms of the composite credit appraisal. So for example, 4 is bad and 1 is very good. So I'm going to highlight the data just like I've shown you here. I'm going to go to conditional formatting, go to icon sets, and I want to use an up and down arrow system as shown here to show green being good, like green going up the way, and red being bad. All right, and you can choose all kinds of different images here to depict the trend of the data as I just hover them over like that. But I'm going to choose this one here, the very first one on the list. So I'm going to click it, and you'll notice almost immediately that the arrow is actually pointing in the wrong direction. It should be a down arrow that's red rather than a green arrow that's pointing up, because 4 is represented as bad and 1 is represented as good, so it's kind of like opposite. So what I'm going to do to fix that is I'm going to highlight the data again. I'm going to go to conditional formatting, and rather than go to icon sets, I'm going to go down to manage the rules. And you'll see that that selection that we had previously is already there, ready to be used. There's the actual data range, H3 to H21. There we are here. And we've got a rule already there. So I'm going to touch this one to indicate that I want to edit it by clicking in the middle button here. Comes back with this image or this dialog box, and what I want to do is I want to first of all reverse the order, meaning that it goes like this. All right, and then I want to depict properly how the arrows should be shown based on the data, and you'll notice it's defaulted to some percentages. I want to change that to numbers. I'm going to do that for both of them first. There we are. And then this one here, I want to only show when it's greater than or equal to 4. So I want the red to show as a down arrow when it's greater than or equal to 4. So I'm going to click 4 here. And then this one here, I want to change that to greater than or equal to 2. All right, so if I go like this, like that, then what will happen is that anything greater than or equal to 2 will show as a right arrow. So that's the 2's and the 3's. And anything greater than or equal to 4, which is really just the 4's, is going to show as a red down arrow. And then once I click OK, it should now click OK again. It now shows the proper direction of the actual arrows. So the key thing to remember about this is that once you've done a conditional formatting on a selected area and you've made a bit of an error with it, you can always go up to conditional formatting and then choose the management of that particular conditional formatting. Alright, so I have to select something. You have to make sure you select what it is you selected before the management rule kicks in to show you you can change it. Alright, if you happen to make a mess of all the conditional formatting, you can always go to conditional formatting and then clear the rules. And I'm not going to do that right now because I don't want to get rid of it. I will in a second. But basically clear rules is to the right of my arrow there. And then you can choose to clear the rule from the entire worksheet and then start over again. And often that's the case that you might want to do that. The other thing I wanted to show you was data bars. And data bars are ways of showing trends within the actual cells themselves, just like here. But this time I'm going to do the current year's sales. If I highlight this like that, I want to show little data bars to show me visually, quickly, which ones have got the highest sales among relative to the rest. So I'm going to go to conditional formatting again. Rather than go to icon sets, I'm going to go to data bars. And then I click on the gradient fill here, or I can click on the solids. I think I'll prefer the gradient fill, just like that. And then I click it and it's done. Nothing more than that. And you'll see that this one here obviously is the higher one, then 64, and then 60. And so it gives you a very quick in-cell depiction of this data relative to all the data in this selection. So I just showed you that, but what I want to show you is how to get to the bars here. Now I admit that these bars are kind of blah looking, so we might add some color. So I'm going to go back to our conditional formatting that we've done here already, and I'm going to get rid of it all. So I'm going to highlight everything. I'm going to get rid of the existing conditional formatting, and then I'm going to clear the rules from the selected cells, or you could do the entire sheet if you want. Let's do the entire sheet. Okay, and so nothing will get in the way of reconditioning or doing reformatting and from a conditional perspective. So what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to keep it all highlighted. All right, keep it all highlighted, and then I'm going to go to conditional formatting, and then I'm going to go down to something called new rule. So I'm going to click on that, and within this I want to choose a formula down at the bottom here. And that formula is going to be checking out the net worth of the individuals. So I want to find people who have a net worth of less than $1 million. I think I said 500,000 prior to that. I'm sorry about that. I should have meant less than $1 million. So if this number here, F3, is less than 1,000, and you might be wondering why I said $1 million. Why am I putting down 1,000 if I meant $1 million? Well, once again, the 000, these numbers actually have to have 000s afterwards in your heads to depict actually what they are. So this 450 is 450,000. This is 1.95 million. All right. Now we're not quite finished yet, but we have to now depict anything in this row here which has anything less than 1 million. And so once we decide on that, or whether it's valid, we click on the formatting. We're then going to fill, and we're going to apply a gray color. Let's use that one. Okay, and then I click OK. And then I click OK, and it's not going to work. And I'm going to explain why it's not going to work in a second. So here we go. We're going to click OK, and you'll notice that everything is gray. Right, I'm clicking away from it to show that I haven't selected anything. So you'll see that everything is gray. And why is that? So let's go back, highlight the data again, and manage the actual rule. So I'm going to conditional formatting, go down to manage the rules, click on the one we just did, and then we're going to edit it, clicking the edit rule. And the problem we have here is the $F$, the $F, $3. What that means is that I'm going to provide this kind of formatting here, dark, sort of a light gray shading, if F3 absolute is less than $1 million or 1,000 thousands. All right, and so I don't want to do that. I want to just get rid of the $sign after the F. And what that means is that I'm going to be looking at every row in the range. Whereas you remember that $sign in front of an F or a letter or a number means it's nailed down. There's nothing beyond that is looked at. So I do want to look at the F column only, nothing else. So I'm going to dollarize the F column, but I do want them to, within that column, look at all the rows. So I'm going to remove the $sign from in front of the 3, and then I click OK, and then let's watch what happens. You'll notice now that it only shows the rows, right, in light gray in which they are less than $1 million. You'll see these down here. Okay. Now what's interesting about conditional formatting is you can apply conditional formatting in 2 or 3 different ways. In fact, what you can do, I'm going to highlight all this, I'm going to add another condition to the same sort of data. You'll notice that when we did this one here, we applied condition to that data, and then we applied conditions to this data in terms of the data bars. Well, in Excel, on a bunch of data, you can apply multiple conditions. And so I'm going to go back and do that to highlight anybody that is over $10 million in net worth. All right, and if we just scan this, we'll see that one is over 10 million and that one is over 10 million. This one's right on 10 million, so I don't really want that one. I just want that one and that one to show up in a different kind of a formatting. So I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to conditional formatting. I'm going down to manage the rules, and this time I'm going to, instead of editing the old one, I'm going to keep it there as valid and useful and applicable, and I'm going to add a new rule. So I'm clicking on new rule right now. And then I want to use a formula again. I go down to the box and I say, okay, this number here, I want to check out to see if it is over 10 million. So that's 10,000. All right, 10,000 thousands. And then I want to format it in a way that highlights it as special. So let's highlight it as, say, green. And I want to change the pattern style to some kind of hashing. There we go, like that one there. Okay, click OK. That's what it's going to look like if it finds anybody over $10 million. And just like the previous condition with the dollar sign issue, I do not want it to be consolidated just to the F3. All right, just to the F3. I want it to be consolidated to the entire column F. So I'm going to nail it down with the dollar sign, but any row within that column. So therefore I get rid of this dollar sign before the 3. Just like that. Then I click OK, and then I click OK, and you'll see now that we have this different highlighting. And you can add 64 different conditions or additional conditions to this one set of data. So if I was to look at this again, additional formatting, manage the rules, I've got 2. You can add 62 to this for a total of 64 conditions inside of one selection of data, which is really quite impressive and allows all kinds of flexibility to do very interesting things. Okay, so that's the end of this video. We're end of level 1, and now we're going to move on to chapter 4 level 2 video.